Good afternoon to you, wonderful and cherished viewers. Thank you very much for watching great television. And we want to thank God again for giving us a gift of life. And we're back again to do it all over again. And today, the show is Week in Review. Somebody will be asking, well, this is my first time watching great television. And what is Week in Review all about? I'll let you know. Now, if you look at our programs and you watch carefully, you can see that every week from Monday through to Friday, we have what you call J News in Brief. And I am your humble host that normally hosts a particular news program, or I anchor that news program. But not everybody will be able to get the opportunity to be able to actually listen or watch the news or what is making news across the continent throughout the whole week. So we normally do what we call Week in Review. So we just capture a summary of what was making news across the continent throughout the whole week. So from Monday through to Friday, what was making news across the continent, we bring that news your way as a form of just catching up live on great television. And so if today is the very first time watching a Week in Review, you haven't lost anything at all. And I'm your humble host, Jeremiah, as usual. All right. So before we go on to our usual review of what was making news across the continent, don't forget, as I say, we don't pick news only in Africa. We go Europe, we go America. And so any news that will catch our eye that we think is trending, we will bring that particular news your way. And so thank you very much for being a part of today's show, Week in Review with me, Jeremiah. And thank you for watching once again. All right, before I go straight into today's program, as you know, usually I will bring a topical issue for us to discuss. And a couple of weeks ago, we looked at knife and gun crime in the streets of the UK. And I was even thinking knife and gun crime is just only very rampant in London. But apparently, from my research, I discovered that it is all over the place, whether in Birmingham, in Manchester, in Liverpool, in London here as well. I mean, it's all over the UK, even in Dublin. Could you believe it? And so we decided to be picking some of these topical issues to discuss and see what we can do towards such issues that are bothering the minds of we, the inhabitants of this particular country. Last week, we also looked at now smoking, youth that are addicted to smoking, and it's become a challenge now. To my shock and to my amazement, I even realized that some of the ladies or the young girls even smoke more than even a gentleman in certain schools. From my research, I was shocked. Today, I want us to look at what influences rape. So what to make someone decides that I am going to have a lady to rape, or you decide that let me hide somewhere and then just pounced on a young pretty girl who is walking here somewhere and has done nothing, but these particular guys would decide to just rape young girls, or it could be elderly or whatever. So I'm trying to find out what influences the ideology for somebody to say I'm going to rape somebody. What are the influences? Maybe a cousin of yours has had a particular experience before, or a relation. Please share with us, and then let's look at what we can be able to do. What advice do we have to our young ladies, our mothers or our sisters who sometimes can fall victim? And I keep saying that sometimes these things can happen to your cousin, your sister, your relative. But your advice that you might give on air that will be read could be a life-saving, or it could save someone's life. You can't tell. So please, this is what we are discussing today. What influences the minds of people who rape others? You are live on great television with me, Jeremiah, your host for today's show, Week in Review. Right. Okay, so to our first story. On Monday, we looked at Nigeria judge elected the new president of ICC. So just in case you missed a particular news on that day, that is just as a recap for you. The judges of International Criminal Court, ICC, sitting in a plenary session, have elected Judge Chile Ebo Usuji of Nigeria as the president of the court for a 3-year term with immediate effect. And so this is a good news for we Africans and also in Nigeria. one Nigerian man has been elected as the president for ICC, International Criminal Court. So that was our first news we picked up on Monday, the 12th of March. And then we also looked at lighting kills many at Rwandan church. And so a lightning strike killed at least 16 people and injured dozens more at the Seventh-day Adventist church in Rwanda. That was Saturday, a week today. And we were able to pick up that particular news as well on that day. And so it was also trending. And we even gave you some video evidences as well on G News in brief on Monday. And then in our third news on that day on Monday, North Korea talks be greatest deal. President Donald Trump said his planned summit with North Korea leader Kim Jong-un could either fail or bring about the greatest deal for the world. And so we looked at that particular news as well. Just in case if you want to get the details, just if I read the caption, you can just go and Google, and I believe that you can get the details of that particular news. If you want details of the news, make a day with me every week, Monday through to Friday on G News in brief, 3 p.m. Right, okay. So on to our next one. Runoff likely in Sierra Leone presidential polls. We all know there's an election that is going on in Sierra Leone. And the election so far, we've been told, is gone into second round. That was what we heard as at Monday. And so preliminary election results has placed main opposition leader Julius Maada Bio slightly ahead of ruling party candidate Samura Kamaran. And the vote will go or went into a runoff, let me put it that way, because none of them were able to achieve the 55% that will put the person into the lead. And so we'll try and then get the latest update on that particular one. And then hopefully on Monday, we will bring live it onto you on G News in brief. And on Monday, we also looked at China to get president for life. And China is set to approve the removal of term limits for its leader, in a move that will effectively allow Xi Jinping to remain as president for life. Anytime I mention this president's name, then my producer is laughing. The change is part of a set of constitutional changes expected to be passed by China's annual sitting of National People's Congress on Sunday. China has imposed a 2-term limit on its president since the 1990s. Mr. Xi, however, defied the tradition of presenting a potential successor during the October's Communist Party Congress. He said instead he consolidated his political power as the party voted to enshrine his name and political ideology in the party's constitution, everlasting his status to the level of its founder. Right, so that was what we picked up as trending news on G News in brief on Monday. And then on Tuesday, the 13th of March, solar energy is a solution to climate change. And I remember one of our viewers was commenting that he believes that Africa, we should be able to start making good use of our sun for solar energy, which will help us a lot. But unfortunately, it is not happening. President Paul Kagame has called for increased adoption of solar energy, saying that it's part of the answer to climate change. President Kagame was yesterday speaking, that was on Monday, at the International Solar Alliance, ISA, conference in New Delhi in India. ISA is an initiative that was launched at the UN Climate Change Conference in Paris on November 30th, 2015. It is a coalition of solar resource-rich countries that seeks to address their special energy needs and will provide a platform to collaborate on addressing and then identify gaps through a common approach. And so I believe that that will serve a good purpose for Africa instead of we always relying on certain other forms of energy. Solar energy will be of help to us. In Somalia, the Somalian parliament bans DP World from operating in the country. Somalia's federal parliament has on Monday voted unanimously a legislation banning the UAE port operator DP World after signing a controversial agreement with the Somalian government during their first seat of the third session of the lower house of parliament declared the deal over the Bibaria port as null and void. So we looked at that story as well. And then 6 Ghanaians, another charged with online romance money laundering scam in US. 8 people from Central Ohio have been charged in federal court for an online romance scam. According to the Department of Justice, 8 men charged on Valentine's Day have been indicted by a grand jury for conspiring to launder and for laundering the proceeds of online romance scam. And according to the indictment, the 8 men created several profiles on online dating sites and then contacted men and women throughout the states and developing a sense of affection for them. This is shocking. And that even reminds me, so please, some of us have to be very careful. Nowadays, people are pulling people's pictures to create a new Facebook account, and they can hack into your account, and before you realize, they are using your account for fraud, asking people for money and things like that. That, oh, I have an NGO, I'm in Nigeria, I am in South Africa, and all that place. So let us be very careful as well. So these 8 men are in the grasp of the police in Ohio. Nigerian senator bust opens 37,500 expenses payment. A Nigerian politician has revealed that senators received 13.5 million naira, which in total is 27,000 pounds. Wow. And it's also equivalent to $37,500 every month to use on expenses of their own choice. These are politicians. So, Shehu Sani, a senator for the governing All Progressive Congress APC party, said there is little accountability about how the money is spent. And according to him, he has called for payment to be scrapped, saying they are a key reason why people choose to enter into politics, because they think they can go away free or escort-free without accounting for the money. This is amazing. All right, another story that was also trending on Tuesday the 13th. A porn star offers to repay back $130,000 in dispute over alleged Trump's affair. And we looked at that particular story in detail. Just in case if you missed that particular story, you can go onto our website, greatchannel.tv, or Google www.greatchannel.tv, and then the excerpts are there. French fashion icon Givenchy dies at age 91. French fashion designer Herbert D. Givenchy, who created famous looks for Audrey Hepburn and Jackie Kennedy, has died at age 91, and may he so rest in peace. He's another gentleman I loved, watch from afar. His designs are classic and he's excellent. In Australia, Australian MP words after Parliament proposal. An Australian MP has wed his partner 3 months after proposing to him in Parliament during a debate on legalizing same-sex marriage. And we looked at that also in detail as well. So on to Wednesday news. So if you just we are watching Week in Review, and we are just recapping what was trending as news across the continent, both in Africa, in America, here in the UK, and also in Europe. And as I said to you, please, today our discussion is, or our topical discussion is that what influences the minds of rape. So if somebody decides to rape, what are some of the things that causes them? As I said to you, we've been discussing some of these issues. Your advice, your counsel, what information you might be giving to us can help a sister, can help somebody. So what do you think they can also do? And then for us to be able to make sure that this particular menace is reduced as well. Thank you for logging and watching. Felicia Mensa, good afternoon to you. And Patrick Nappington, I know you are watching us also from South Korea. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for watching. And Cindy, I believe you should be watching us from Ghana. This time, I'm sure you're not in Holland. So thank you also for watching. And then our old faithful, Mr. Kwame Painter, is also watching. And I have a wonderful guest here with me as well. I believe you know my guest I'm referring to, Uncle Kwame, if you're watching. And then Reverend Kingsley Boedi, thank you very much, man of God, and good afternoon. Thank you for watching too as well. So please, if you have any comment, you have whatever you think can help to reduce some of these rape cases we keep hearing. Rape cases not only here in Europe or in the UK, it's across the continent, whether in Africa, in America, these things are happening. And then people are watching us all over the world. And so your suggestions, your advice, your counsel probably can save a soul. You can tell. It's very, very important. Okay, so on to Wednesday, the 14th of March. In Zimbabwe, post-Mugabe Zimbabwe receives first UN envoy. In Harare, ACHIM Stina, the United Nations Development Program for UNDP's administrator, is the first UN official to visit Zimbabwe after the end of Robert Mugabe's presidency of over 37 years. And this man says he is visiting the South African country in Africa for the very first time. And thousands of migrants return home safely from Libya as part of UN-supported program. Since last November, 10,171 migrants have safely returned from Libya, the United Nations Migration Agency announced on Tuesday, and crediting the achievement to a scale up of its voluntary humanitarian return as well, VHR program. And we are continuing to assist migrants inside Libya detention centers while increasing efforts to reach stranded migrants outside of the detention centers as well. And so we say kudos to the UN and also the IOM, International Organization for Migration missions in Libya. They are doing a great job, and so we say kudos to them and well done as well. Professor Stephen Hawking also dies at age 76. We all know this physicist, this great inventor, great man, and who died a few days ago at age 76. Stephen Hawking has died at age 76, his family said. And the British world-renowned physicist was known for his work with black holes and relativity and wrote several popular science books, including A Brief History of Time. And at the age of 22, Stephen Hawking was given only a few years to live after being diagnosed with a rare form of motor neuron disease. And we all know the story. How this great man, even though he found himself in a wheelchair, he was able to achieve a lot for the science world. And so we want to say that may his soul rest in perfect peace. Sierra Leone presidential polls enters runoff. I think I said that, and this one was the latest update of the results that we looked at on Wednesday. And so you can Google that particular story as well. You can get the latest update on that as well. All right. Google co-founders flying taxi takes to skies in New Zealand. Yes. So I realized that now Google, the largest search engine, is launching themselves into another business or another area of business venture. And this time they are trying to give us an amazing, whether it's an helicopter or whatever they call it. It is called a flying taxi. Kitty Hawk, the Silicon Valley startup backed by Page, said it is building and testing all-electric vertical takeoff and landing product in New Zealand. It is released footage of one of those vehicles in flight and then billing it as a cross between the DeLorean from Back to the Future and then the Jetsons hover car, or hove car if you like it that way, dubbed the Cora. And so fingers crossed, let's see what happens in a few months to come if we will be seeing this particular invention in motion. Trump also sacks Rex Tillerson as state secretary, and we looked at this particular story in detail. So U.S. President Donald Trump has sacked his state secretary, replacing him with the director of the CIA, Mike Pompeo. And I had a different view of Trump's way of presidency as compared to the other presidents who have gone, like well-known Barack Obama and the rest, Bill Clinton and all other presidents. Right, if you just logged on, you are watching Week in Review, and Week in Review, we do recap on some of the stories making headlines across the continent, which we normally capture on our news. We call Genius in Brief every week from Monday through to Friday with me, Jeremiah, all the time. All right, so before we go onto our next day story, that's on Thursday, so I have Thursday and Friday to do. Let's go for this short commercial break, and don't forget we are also discussing what influences the mindset of rape. What will influence someone's mind, that irrespective of whatever the person is doing, whether the person is normal or is abnormal, whatever happens, what actually happens, and they want to actually put themselves in this particular position. And then how can we also advise our young ladies, sisters and whatever, to be able to be very careful of these particular people, because they can fall victims any time, whether they are on the street, they are at home. I hear stories, even maid servants in their own homes sometimes, mothers who have sons that they leave their maids in their care, whatever. Strange things happens. What can we do to be able to reduce this particular issue? Please go onto our Facebook page, Great Television, and you can share your views with us, and it's going to be read live on air as we go on the program. And my question is what influences the minds of people to commit to rape? What influences their minds? Somebody was saying to me that, well, I haven't tried it before, but you have friends who normally will be telling you of their experiences, what they've been through as individuals. And I heard one story that was quite heartbreaking. One young lady who had been raped by the biological father for over 3 times. And I'm asking myself, so couldn't the young lady also report the dad to the mom? Sometimes these things happen and they are very strange. You can explain. All right, so if you just logged on, you are live on Great Television and you are watching Week in Review, and we normally review, as I said to you, what has becoming or what is being making news across the continent that we captured on our Genius in Brief throughout the whole week between Monday and Friday, 3 p.m., usually on this network. So if you just logged on, thank you for watching, and you are live. Great. All right, so on the 15th of March, that was on Thursday, we looked at Constitutional Court to confirm judgment on funding of political parties. Information about the private funding of political parties and independent candidates is reasonably required to exercise an informed vote at the ballot box, lobby group by the vote count says. On Tuesday, my vote count is due to appear before the Constitutional Court for the confirmation hearing of the High Court in Cape Town judgment on the constitutionality of the Promotion of Access to Information Act, PAIA, as it pertains to access to information about private funding of political parties and independent candidates in our electoral system. I think this is also a very good idea, so at least people who contribute to political parties will be able to know they should be accountable to that. If I'm putting money into a political party, do I need to know the bank balance of the political party? What is the money is being used for, and things like that? I think we might have to start looking into some of these things as well. And then in Kenya MPs complain about unsolicited sexting. Lawmakers in Kenya have asked police to rein in increasing incidents of cyberbullying. In a discussion in Parliament on Tuesday, that was the past Tuesday, they said that social media accounts had been set up with their names, and I said it in the beginning of today's program, that people are hacking into people's Facebook account, not just Facebook alone, but some other social media sites as well. So it could be Instagram, it could be Twitter account, and people are hacking into other people's social media as well. So please, you've got to be very, very cautious. And these things are even happening to pastors. It happened to one of my very, very good senior man of God, and I had to alert the reps here in the UK. So I don't want to mention names, but trust you me, these things are happening, and they're all over the place. Especially those of us that we are on media platforms like TV, radio, and we are well known all over the place. We've got to be very, very careful as well. So the lawmakers, Kaputia and Chibo, also added that male MPs think they are the only ones being seduced, but they are not the only people as well. So it means that this thing, it is no respecter of persons. Anybody at all can have a challenge in terms of your social media being hacked. So either Facebook, Twitter account, or whatever, you've got to be very, very careful as well. UK to expel 23 Russian diplomats. So we also looked at this particular story in detail as well. The UK will expel 23 Russian diplomats after Moscow refused to explain how a Russian-made nerve agent was used on a former spy in Salisbury, the MP says. President or Prime Minister Theresa May said the diplomats who have a week to leave were identified as undeclared intelligence officers. And so just Google in UK to expel 23 Russian diplomats, and then the full story will come to you. There's also even a video that we also showed as well on that day on G News in Brief. And so, as I said, you can still go onto our website or even our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then anything that we post or we put up there, it quickly will alert you on all our programs as well. And then in the one other story which was also all over the place and it was viral was UN calls for release of the arbitrarily arrested people. The United Nations Human Rights Office is calling on the Eritrean government to immediately release all people who are arbitrarily detained and ensure they receive a fair trial. And this actually took place on Wednesday. A senior rights official updated the UN Human Rights Council. And so we looked at this particular story also as well, with also video evidences. And then Commonwealth Africa Summit focuses on youth gender equality. And this was my top story for the week. I really love this particular story, where delegates from across Africa are attending the Commonwealth Africa Summit in London, where the theme this year is the common good. And the topics under discussion included climate change and improving gender equality. And I believe it went well. I really, really love this particular story as well. And in Namibia, US funds cybercrime course. So you can just imagine that if US are funding cybercrime, then you should know that everybody have to be on the alert, because you could fall victim to some of these things. More than 40 people from Namibia's financial services sector participated in a 3-day workshop that focused on detecting counterfeit money, cyber crimes, and online banking fraud. And so the workshop, we realized, was facilitated by the US Embassy in Windhoek, with investigators and experts from the Secret Services at the US Embassy in Pretoria in South Africa. And so that was also one of the stories that we picked up on G News in Brief on this network. Okay, I think I have a few people who have logged on there. They are watching. Alice B, good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for watching. Millicent Adjoa Adomako, you're also watching. Good afternoon to you, and thank you also for watching. I'm not getting your comment coming in. Anita Piesa says hello. Hello to you also as well, Anita Piesa, and thank you very much for watching. And I hope you are catching up what you missed in the week that was making news across the continent. Okay, on to our final day news. That was yesterday. Yesterday, all apologies, we had to go and then capture some other news item outside the studio. And so we were in central London to capture some news, which very soon you'll be getting it live on this network. Hopefully on Monday or Tuesday, you will get that story. Right. So yesterday we were meant to give you some few updates on what was making news across the continent, and cigarette firms to pay 12 billion shilling in taxes. So the government is set to collect over 12 billion shilling annually in tax from a newly launched cigarette manufacturing firm, Philip Morris in Tanzania says. Speaking at the launch of the factory in Morogoro municipality, the executive director of the Monzo Industries firm operator, Mr. Sharif Monzo, yesterday revealed that the revenue would come from the factory's installed capacity of producing over 1 billion cigarettes per year. This is amazing. All right, and then we also looked at Russian to cast their ballot in Dar es Salaam. We got this particular news and it was actually very, very interesting. Russians go to the polls on Sunday, March 18, that is tomorrow, in an election that pits the incumbent President Vladimir Putin against 7 other contestants for the Kremlin job. And so if in case you want details of this particular news item, just Google Russia to cast their ballot in Dar es Salaam and you will get the details. If you just logged on, you are watching Week in Review with me, Jeremiah. And as I said to you, Week in Review is just a recap of what was making news across the continent that we captured on our Genius in Brief throughout the whole week, Monday through to Friday at 3 p.m. live on this network, Great Television. And so if you missed all the news throughout the week, we just bring you just a summary of what we captured throughout the whole week. And so just in case if you want a credible source for your news and breaking stories, please make it with us Monday through to Friday live on this network, Great Television, Genius in Brief with me, your host, Jeremiah. Okay. We also are going to look at Zimbabwe president meets IMF, World Bank chief. I don't know if whether my producer has got that particular video ready. We will look at President Enagawa held a high-level meeting with top officials from the world's top multilateral financial institution on the sidelines of the 48th World Economic Forum, WEF, in Switzerland, as he continued with his drive to re-engage with the international community last month. If that video is ready, I'll get my producer to shoot a particular video for us to have a look at this particular meeting. Think that the sound actually was not playing very well on that particular video. Anyway, this thing sometimes happens. Okay, all right. So Russian aeroplane also loses gold silver bar on takeoff. When I saw this particular story, and I looked at the like the comments that people normally comment on news items, and it was trending all over the place. There has been shock at an airport in Far East Russia after bars of precious metal rained down onto the runway. A plane loaded with tons of gold silver alloy was taken off from the airport in Siberia when a loading hatch broke off. Let's see whether we can have a look at this particular video and evidence on this particular story.
Lost much of a $368 million cargo of diamonds, platinum and gold on takeoff in Siberia. The treasures fell out of a loose hatch in the plane's hold. Precious metals and diamonds rained over the runway and a swathe of Yakutia, the coldest region in Russia. The hatch door fell off near a car market without causing injury. The plane bound for Krasnoyarsk then made an emergency landing at Magan, after discovery it had been hemorrhaging valuables. The nightmare happened on takeoff from Yakutsk, the regional capital. The Nimbus Airlines AN-12 cargo plane hit problems during takeoff and the treasures fell out of the hold all over the runway, reported the Siberian Times. The plane then dropped some bars of gold as far as 15 miles from the airport. Police sealed off the runway and a vast search is underway. Only Secret Services operatives are allowed to take part. It is unclear if it was an accident or a deliberate attempt at a ring heist. Technical engineers at the airport who prepared it for takeoff have been detained. They are undergoing interrogation, said a source. The cargo belonged to Chukotka Mining and Geological Company. Some 75% of shares belong to Canadian Kinross Gold. Yakutsk is capital of Yakutia or the Sacha Republic, Russia's
This particular gold bar would drop in my room. I would have been a millionaire. Okay, if you just logged on, you are live on Great Television and you are watching Week in Review with me, Jeremiah, as usual. Let me acknowledge a few people who are just logged on watching Week in Review today. And Thompson Piri, good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for watching as well. And I know you are watching us from the UK. And one of my very good up and coming, or let me say, a colleague, a family friend, a brother, all the way in Maryland, Josiah, you're also watching. Good afternoon to you. But it's morning by this time. I hope good morning to you, and thank you very much for watching as well. All right, now let's look at our last but two stories, and then we are done, making way for the next program, Yes to Healthy Life. And so please, if you need any tidbits on good, healthy program that you want more information on how to be able to live a healthy life, we always say health is everything to humankind. Please don't forget, after my show, another show will be coming up, Yes to Healthy Life. And so please make a date, don't go anywhere. We have lots of goodies for you today. All right, so yesterday also another story that was all over the place or went viral. At least one dead in pedestrian bridge collapse in Miami. At least one person has died as rescue team search for victims among the rubble of a collapsed pedestrian bridge at Florida International University in Miami, officials said Thursday afternoon. At least 8 cars were crashed under the bridge, and at least 8 people have been transported to hospitals for treatment, authorities said. And we had the opportunity of getting some of the footages. So let's have a look at this particular footage of this sad incident that took place in Miami.
This hour to recover any more possible survivors and victims in Miami. A pedestrian bridge collapsing onto several cars this afternoon at Florida International University. This is a live look at the rescue efforts right now.
ABC News just confirming an engineering company was doing a stress test on the bridge this morning, but it's unclear if the crews finished that.
Authorities confirming they took 8 people to the hospital from this collapse. Video and pictures from the scene showing the falling concrete crushing 8 cars. The more than $14 million project crossed over a busy 7-lane road that divided FIU's campus from the city of Sweetwater. Crews installed the 2 million pound bridge just this past Saturday.
A way to take a look at this time-lapse video from the installation. Crews able to put it up in just a matter of hours. Workers built the main part of the 174-foot span by the side of the road, while crews built support towers on both sides. You can see they opened it with much fanfare there. The bridge was not open for foot traffic just yet, as construction was scheduled to go for another year. The construction company that was building this bridge releasing this statement on Twitter late this afternoon, quote, "MCM is a family business, and we are all devastated and doing everything we can to assist. We will conduct a full investigation to determine exactly what went wrong."
And the company who designed the bridge also releasing a statement, FIG Engineering, saying, quote, "We will fully cooperate with every appropriate authority in reviewing what happened and why. In our 40-year history, nothing like this has ever happened before." That company, FIG Engineering, is the same firm that designed the Sunshine Skyway Bridge over Tampa Bay and the raised express lanes of the Selman Expressway in 2004 when a concrete pier there collapsed during construction, a mishap that cost $120 million. We're going to keep following this developing situation every step of the way. Be sure to download our free mobile app, and we'll send you push alerts as soon as authorities release any new information. At this hour, to recover any more possible survivors and victims in Miami, a pedestrian bridge collapsing onto several cars this afternoon at Florida International University.
So we want to say that we wish those who are in the hospital, we wish them well and a speedy recovery. Sad news, but I believe some of these things happen, and I wish this thing wouldn't happen in any country in Africa. We hear bad news. So we wish them all the best, and we wish them well as well. Right. Okay, so on to my last story, and then I'll make way for the next program, Yes to Healthy Life. We can make it in Africa, Samira Bawumia says. Ghana's second lady, Samira Bawumia, is highly optimistic that Africa can attain the positive economic change it is yearning for. Yes, delivering a public lecture on the theme, Driving Economic Change in Africa in the 21st Century. Ghana at the forefront at the University of Pennsylvania, US. Mrs. Bawumia said, Africans must believe in themselves that it is possible and would take everyone to be on board to drive that change. Well, I agree with her anyway. All right, thank you very much. So these were some of the news that was making headlines across the continent, went viral, and most print houses and then let's say media were also picking up some of these headlines, and it was on their website. And so we captured these news on Genius in Brief from Monday to Friday yesterday, and I believe that I've made sure at least you were not left in the dark for far too long. And Monday to Friday, whatever was making news across the continent, I've done a review and a little bit of summary for our news collection for you live on this network, Great Television, and on Weekend Review. If you want to sponsor this show, please, my producer will put the email address on the screen, and then you can get in touch with us, and then we will make sure that we'll promote your business for you live on this network, Great Television. Let us know if you have any interest or any program that you want us to promote for you. Don't hesitate. You can even go onto our website, or you can even get onto our Facebook page. Drop whatever comment you want to drop in on there, and then we'll chase you up ASAP. Thank you for watching this episode of Week in Review with me, Jeremiah. Unfortunately, it's been snowing in London again. We thought we were going to have a good weather. We've enjoyed the weather from Monday to Friday, and unfortunately, forgive me the way I've padded myself. All apologies. All right. Thank you for watching today's episode of Week in Review with me, Jeremiah. Have a wonderful weekend, and the next show coming your way is Yes to Healthy Life. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.